Hi friends, today we are going to start our discussion for Indian economy. We are talking about GS paper 3. If you are not attended the approach lecture of economy, please go through the list of recorded lectures. There you will find the link for it and please go through that lecture. I am assuming that you have already watched that approach lecture for Indian economy. Indian economy is divided into two major parts. One is a general economy and second is agriculture economy. I am responsible for general economy and Sujit is responsible for agriculture economy. So today we are going to start our discussion of general economy. Uh, the first topic that we have to discuss in economy is growth and development. Uh, Anybody knows the difference between growth and development or the meaning of growth and development? Before I get into any sort of discussion, uh, let me discuss that how the countries are classified uh, by World Bank. Countries are classified into developed, developing, and underdeveloped countries. Which are developed countries? The developed countries are those countries which are industrialized in nature. They are presently experiencing the post-industrial phase of economic development. For example, when you talk about the Western European countries or when USA, they were industrialized countries maybe until the end of the last century, but majority of the people are not now uh, involved in industrial activities, but they are involved now in a post-industrial activity. Generally, they are more uh, involved in the service sector. So these people are more economically developed. Developing countries are like India, which are newly industrialized countries, and these countries are also called as emerging economies. We have not yet reached the ultimate stage, which are being presently experienced by either West Europe or by America. And there are a few countries which are called as underdeveloped countries. More popular term for them is a third world countries, countries like Bangladesh or Sudan or those kind of countries. These are least developed countries also. They are called as LDC, least developed countries. Generally, they are heavily indebted. Majority of the population are poor and still not developed. Uh, Developed countries uh, and developing countries. Nowadays, the difference between these two terms is going down. Maybe 10, 15 years ago, uh, country like China, India, Brazil, South Africa were called as developing countries, and West European countries, Australia, New Zealand, America, Canada were developed countries. But now you can see that there are many countries in Europe like Portugal, Spain, Italy, Greece. Uh, they can be easily compared with the countries like India, even Brazil, etc. And China has obviously overtaken them uh, 10 years ago. So now maybe people are talking more about uh, underdeveloped countries on one side and developed and developing countries on the other side. Uh, World Bank also classifies the countries on the basis of the income groups. There is a term called GNI, that is Gross National Index. We are going to discuss what is national income and what are the different types to express national income. The most popular term is GDP. There is a term called NNP, GNI. We'll be discussing the actual meaning of that bit later on. But you are knowing that there is a concept, simple concept called income. So there are few countries whose income per capita is less than $1,025. Those countries come in the low income bracket. There are some lower middle income countries. There are some countries which are called as upper middle income countries, right? So those emerging or developing economies are divided into second and third category, and The underdeveloped countries are classified as a first category as per this nomenclature. And high income countries, these are the developed countries which are generally having the per capita income of above around $12,237. So now we have come across basically two concepts. One, that there is something called, or the countries can be divided on the basis of income, and the countries are also called as or classified as developing or underdeveloped countries, right? So there is one concept called per capita income and a classification based on this, and there is another concept called development, and we have to discuss what's the basis of that. According to United Nations Statistical Division, there is right now there is hardly an established convention for the designation of developed and developing countries. Maybe 20-25 years ago, there used to be a clear classification कि ये developed है, ये developing है. Already मैंने point touch कर दिया है. The designations developed and developing are intended for statistical convenience and do not necessarily express a judgment about the stage reached by a particular country or an area in the development process. For example, countries like India and China can be easily treated as developed countries if you consider the state of IT or IT penetration or the insurance penetration, or even when you talk about the availability of the automobiles, the two-wheelers or the four-wheelers, uh, the availability of modes of transportation like the aeroplanes, etc. The availability of the amenities in the urban areas like the malls or the theaters, etc. It is comparable, whatever we are having and whatever maybe even England are having or Italy are having, right? But at the same time, when you talk about the availability of the hospitals, availability of primary education, and those kind of things, then maybe we can directly compare with Bangladesh and Pakistan as well. So, in a way, because when we are discussing the concept of development, there are so many parameters, it's very difficult to segregate the countries that or label the countries very easily as developed or developing. Uh, let's try to understand what is basically development. Uh, we find, or maybe what we will do, first I will discuss this difference between growth and development, and then we'll come back to that slide. Uh, Growth is a quantitative concept, right? I guess everybody knows that. We talk about a quantity, and development is a qualitative concept. Now, before I get into the discussion, let's try to understand the meaning in a more theoretical, conceptual manner. Now, let's assume that my salary last month was say 10,000 rupees per month, and now from this month onwards, I'm getting 15,000 rupees per month. So what is happening? There is an increase in the quantity. My salary has increased by 50%. So it's a quantitative concept, and I'm talking essentially in terms of money right now. Now, whether these 5,000 rupees are going to reflect in the improvement of the quality of my standard of living, that's a $1,000,000 question. Means if I use this 5,000 rupees for on alcohol, for example, uh, then this increase in quantity is not reflecting in the improvements in the quality of my life. In fact, if I become alcoholic or if I drink more alcohol, there is a chance that the standard of living will deteriorate. But if I use this 5,000 rupees for buying, for example, a treadmill, and I keep that treadmill in my home, and on daily basis I start walking on that treadmill, that I started exercising on a daily basis. So what will happen? Obviously, my health will improve. It means the quality of my life will improve. So whenever I'm talking about increase or the augmentation of any quantity of any resource, I'm talking about growth. And when I'm talking about the improvements in the quality of life, I'm talking about development. So growth is basically what? Growth is a quantitative increase. In this figure, you can see that there is an increase in the height, right? There might be an increase in the per capita income. So I was talking about growth in a more in terms of increase in the quantity, and development in terms of increase in the quality of the life. Uh, Here, this figure shows there is an increase in the height. So this is growth. This is an increase in the GDP, right? Means in a first year there was some GDP. In a second year you can see the GDP is increasing. In a third year GDP is increasing more. So the quantity is increasing. So we're talking about growth. So there's an increase in the growth rate of GDP. But if we use that money for infrastructure, right? Infrastructure like, for example, power, like roads, like railways, electricity. So what will happen because of that? The quality of our life, standard of our life will improve. So it means that increase in the GDP, right? That means that the money generated in our economy is increasing. How we are using that money? We are using that money for building new infrastructure, which will increase the quality of our life. So here, growth is culminating into development. If the per capita income of agriculture is increasing, farmers is increasing, and with that money, if farmer buys a tractor, then what will happen? We call it as a mechanization of agriculture. So traditional agriculture become mechanized agriculture. Because of that, the standard of quality of the standard of living of the farmer will automatically increase. That is development. If my salary increases, and because of that, myself, if I join certain courses, then what will happen? My quality will improve. If I use that money to give my children better education, so what will happen? Their standard of living will also increase. This is what? This is development. So this is how the growth and the development are linked with each other. So just to summarize again, growth is a quantitative concept. It can be measured, right? It can be measured. In economics, we use the term economic growth. It is the increase in the amount of goods and services produced per head of the population over the period of time. But always remember, not necessarily every time whatever the goods and services we produce will culminate into development. ऐसा हर बार नहीं होता है. For example, there are a lot of goods which are produced in our economy, which we buy, which we consume, but rather than improving the quality of our life, they result into deteriorating the quality of our life. The best example is when we drink aerated drinks like Thums Up or Pepsi or a Coca-Cola. 10 years ago, maybe we were producing 100 bottles of Thums Up. Now we are producing 1,000 bottles of Thums Up. This is growth. Maybe this will not culminate into development. Same is the thing like services. Means media is one service, right? And we know that media can play a very significant role in the development of our country. But what is happening? The size of media, that is the quantity of media, has exploded exponentially. That is, a lot of growth is shown, but it is not necessarily resulting into development. IT, data, right? Internet is one of the services. We per capita consume, whatever the quantity of data we consume is increasing phenomenally in the last 5-6 years, right? India is one of the leading consumer of data. But if you are using your internet connection for watching porn or playing PUBG, then what is going to happen? Then quantity, that is growth, is increasing, but that is not culminating into development. So I think it's amply clear now That growth is an increase in the quantity, but of what? Of the goods and services that is produced. It can be measured. There are different concepts like gross domestic product, which is the most popular one, then gross national product, net national product, but we will discuss them in a due course of time. UPSC generally don't ask questions on the technicalities involved. The most popular concept is GDP. But you have to understand that growth is a narrower concept. It does not give the full picture whether growth was able to achieve the planned goals, right? Or did the growth cause environmental damage and whether this was achieved in a sustainable manner. So growth not necessarily culminates into a development. Some point of time it might culminate into a development, but then the new question arises that whether that development is sustainable or not. What is development? Development is a qualitative concept, which means it cannot be measured directly, but is a measure in relation to the other factors. It is closely related to the morality of the people, what is good or bad. At the same time, its relevance keeps on changing. This is a very interesting concept about development. And for example, at some point of time, we can say that increase in the service of internet is a good thing. So growth is good. Why? Because it is culminating to development. Because with that internet connection, I am able to educate the people better. I am able to give them better services as well, right? But so if you ask the question that okay, I'm giving some internet connection to a poor person's mobile, is a good thing or not? Whether it is culminating to development. So somebody will say yes. Why? Because now because of that uh, uh, Janadhana account has been started, and this person can have direct access to Janadhana account through his mobile. So obviously, it's a good thing. It is leading to development. But again, if that person's son is using that mobile or that internet connection for using playing PUBG, then whether that's a good thing, obviously that's not a good thing. So relevance keeps on changing. So what is basically economic development? It refers to the improvement in the quality of life and the living standards. And you have to understand that the meaning of quality of life and living standards will also keep on changing with the time. That's why originally we have said that what comes under development maybe might change with time. Obviously, on a broader level, the concept of development is same maybe for 200 years and will remain same for the next 200 years. It is a broader concept than economic growth, obviously, and takes into consideration many different factors like health, like education, like pollution, like freedom, equality, and etc. etc. Development refers to economic as well as extremely important social and political well-being of the individual or a population. Please try to understand development in this such a broad concept, right? It is not only about quantity. It's not only about increasing the goods and services. It's not only about increasing the GDP of the country. It's not only about increasing the per capita income of the country. It should be more about whether these increases are resulting into the social and political well-being of more number of individuals or population. That's the real question. And that question we should ask to ourselves. And for example, in our country, there is always a lot of discussion about what is the GDP growth rate. Whether we are having 8%, 10%, minus 10%, or minus 20%, or like that. Now, people, you might say now that if development is the ultimate goal and development is what we are looking for, then why we are discussing growth continuously? Why growth is in the limelight? Why newspapers or the prime ministers or we never talked about the development indicators? Why we always talk about the growth indicators like GDP per capita income and blah blah blah? Now this question is a very interesting question. And to answer this question, I will take an example of Narayan Murthy, the founder of Infosys. I guess you might be knowing that after his graduation was over, he was working in one company, Petri Computers in Pune for some time. but he was not very happy with his job, and he wanted to change India. Right? He wanted to contribute in the transformation of India. Obviously, those were the times when the socialism was in the air. And what is socialism? Socialism is ensuring equality, justice, freedom to the whole society, to the lower strata of the society, and etc. etc. So he was inspired by that idea, and he thought that he keep on working in a IT company, in a private IT company, and maybe his growth will be ensured, maybe his development will also be ensured, but maybe he will not directly contributing to the growth or the development of other people who are living in India. So what he did, he basically traveled Europe extensively at that time to see how the development or growth models are working there. And then he come to a conclusion. This is a very interesting conclusion he drew. He thought that India has made one big mistake in the initial years. And what was that mistake? That we concentrated more on the development goals, but we failed to understand that if we want to ensure development, we have to mobilize resources. Resources like coal, resources like water, resources like even human resource, right? People. Now, if we want to mobilize these resources, means what? Means if you want to mobilize a human resource, then you have to take an individual, human being, and you have to educate them. You have to ensure that they are having a good health. Then and then only they will become a good economic unit, and they will be able to produce more, or they will or that human being will become developed. There is a resource called coal, but coal is lying idle in the mines, right, below the crust. If you want to mobilize that coal for generation of electricity, तो आपको क्या करना पड़ेगा? आपको माइन डिग करना पड़ेगा. उसके लिए आपको क्या चाहिए? आपको आपको मशीन्स चाहिए. For that, what you want? You want again money. So whatever aspect of development, if, for example, if you want to reduce the maternal mortality rate, if you want to reduce the infant mortality rate, तो आपको क्या चाहिए? आपको हॉस्पिटल्स चाहिए, आपको फार्मेसीज चाहिए. But for that, again, what you want? You want money. So rather than concentrating on development, he thought, why not create money? If we give money in the hand of the people, then people will use that money for improving their own standard of living, and development will be automatically ensured. It means what? It means that we have to concentrate on growth, and we have to believe that this growth will result into development. For that, he started Infosys. Now you might say, but sir, again, Infosys हुआ मतलब क्या हुआ कि then you are going to give employment to 1,000 people, but ultimately Narayan Murthy will be the owner. No doubt about it. But I guess some of you might be knowing that Infosys is the first company in India who introduced the concept of ESOP, that is Employees Stock Options. इसका मतलब क्या है? इसका मतलब है कि if you are working in Infosys for some years, say 5 years, then Infosys will give some shares of the company to you. So you become an owner of the company. So it means what? It means that if you are now owner of the company, in addition to a salary, you are also going to get the profit, part of the profit as well. Right? So you have more money at your disposal. But the point is that if you keep this money in your vault, तो कुछ फायदा नहीं है. Growth is not going to result into that much of development. लेकिन if I buy a house with that money, please try to understand now. I buy a house. Whether my standard of living is improving? Yes, because I am now having my own house. But if I'm buying one house, the demand for the houses will increase. There will be a boom in the real estate sector. More people who are poor will get employment in that housing industry, and they will get more money automatically. So what is happening? My growth, right? My growth, that is increasing of my per capita income, I try to enjoy a better standard of living. How I'm going to do that? By consuming more goods and services. If I try to consume more goods and services, I'm automatically not only improving my standard of living, that is, I'm not only ensuring my development, but I'm giving employment to more number of people. Because of that, what will happen? Because of that, they will get salary, they will get employment, should be insured. Now what will happen? Now they are getting employment, the salary. They will use that money for enjoying better health and education services. So it will automatically ensure their development. Now think from the other perspective. Infosys is generating huge profits, huge income. As a company, it is going to pay the corporate tax to the government of India. I am an employee to the Infosys. I am also going to pay income tax to the government of India. The person who is going to work on that building, right? The person who is going to work on that building is now getting a more employment opportunity. Their salary is increased. Maybe they will not pay income tax to the government, but because now they will consume more, they will buy milk, they will buy the packed food and etc etc. They will send their children to the schools, right? They will use internet. So they are going to consume more goods and services. Automatically, indirectly, they are paying what? They are paying GST. So again, the government's income is going to increase. So whenever there is a growth, right, people will pay more taxes, either direct taxes or indirect taxes, and government's income will also increase. It means there will be a growth, right? Government's tax revenue increases, means government growth will happen. Now that money government will use for what? Government will use that money for financing infrastructure, by building dams, by opening new and new hospitals, by building new schools. Because of that, what will happen automatically? The standard of living of the people will increase. Government will able to launch मिड डे मील स्कीम. सीधी सी बात है, देखो एग्रीकल्चर रिवॉल्यूशन हो गई. एग्रीकल्चर रिवॉल्यूशन हो गई मतलब क्या? देयर इज इंक्रीज इन द क्वांटिटी ऑफ फूड ग्रेन दैट इज प्रोड्यूस्ड इन इंडिया. वी बिकम सेल्फ सफिशिएंट. उसके बाद वी बिकम सरप्लस. वी ज्यादा हो गया फूड ग्रेन. व्हाट इज दिस मीनिंग ऑफ दिस? इज ग्रोथ. प्लीज कॉन्सेंट्रेट. until we become self sufficient, right? Until we become self sufficient. उस वक्त का पॉइंट क्या था? उसका पॉइंट ये था कि हमारे लोगों को पूरा खाने के लिए नहीं था, राइट? अभी सेल्फ सफिशिएंट बन गए, उसका मतलब सबको खाने को मिल गया. सो दैट ग्रोथ, दैट इज इंक्रीज इन द फूड डायरेक्टली रिजल्टिंग इनटू डेवलपमेंट, राइट? अभी क्या है? अभी हमको 100 kg व्हीट चाहिए था. नाउ वी आर हैविंग दैट. सो नाउ वी आर सेल्फ सफिशिएंट. until that moment growth is. अभी हमारा प्रोडक्शन बन गया 120 kg. So there is still a growth of 20 kg. Now the question, this 20 kg, how you are going to use? If I use that 20 kg for financing midday meal school, right? तो क्या होगा? तो बच्चे स्कूल में आएंगे. Why? Because they are getting a midday meal there. So they are getting education. Please try to understand. There is a growth of food grain, and that is directly resulting into more enrollment for in primary schools. That is improving the standard of living of those children and their families. That is development. So whenever you are talking about improvement of increase in the quantity of any resources, you are going to talk about growth and how that growth is used for improving the quality of the life, for ensuring social and political well-being of the Indian population. We are more talking about development. And without growth, you simply cannot achieve development. Why? Because for achieving development, you have to mobilize the resources, and for mobilizing the resources, you want money. And that will happen only if the growth happens. So before 1990, before P.V. Narasimha Rao was the Prime Minister at that time and Manmohan Singh was the Finance Minister at that time, they introduced a very famous model called Rao Manmohan Model of Economic Development. Very interesting point. But what that model suggests, and even today after 30 years, we are basically using the same model. We are very fortunate in one thing in our country. Whether it is Narendra Modi was a prime minister, Manmohan Singh was a prime minister, political debates will happen. And today we think that Modi is the best prime minister. Believe me, 6 years ago we used to think that Manmohan Singh was the best prime minister, right? So it doesn't matter that whether BJP is in power or Congress is power, or maybe for that matter any other party is in power either in a state or at a center. Fortunately for us, all political parties, they might have different socio-cultural political agendas, but economic agenda of everybody is basically same. Whether it's a rightist party or whether it's a leftist party, economic agenda same ही है. And that economic agenda is Rao Manmohan model of economy, more famously called as the LPG model, that is liberalization, privatization, globalization model of economy. We're going to discuss that model in the due course of time. But what's that model's basic theme? Basic theme is they always talk more and more about growth, right? GDP growth rate, 5%, 10%, 8%. They talk about per capita income. But what's the objective of achieving that growth? That is development. So what Manmohan Singh said in 1991, he said that until this moment, we used to concentrate more on development. Now we are going to concentrate on growth. इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि डेवलपमेंट हमने निगलेक्ट कर दिया. इसका मतलब यही है कि नाउ वी एक्सेप्ट, वी अंडरस्टैंड टू अचीव डेवलपमेंट ग्रोथ चाहिए, बट growth is not objective. Growth is just the means to achieve development. So we are following what is called as a growth driven development strategy, right? So our ultimate goal will always remain development, and development is what? Social and political well-being of the individual. आप फिर से देखो, आपने प्रियम्बल अगर आप देखते हो तो व्हाट्स द बेसिक अल्टीमेट प्रियम्बल का ऑब्जेक्टिव है, हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का ऑब्जेक्टिव है वेलफेयर स्टेट. वेलफेयर स्टेट कौन सा स्टेट होता है? ऐसा स्टेट होता है कि जहां लोगों को सोशल पॉलिटिकल राइट्स वो एंजॉय कर सकते हैं. बट अगेन उसके लिए क्या चाहिए? उसके लिए चाहिए बेसिकली योर कंट्री आर हैविंग द मॉनेटरी रिसोर्सेज. इफ यू डोंट हैव दैट, दिस बिकम जस्ट अ थ्योरेटिकल ड्रीम. फॉर एग्जांपल, लेट्स टेक एन एग्जांपल ऑफ वुमन एम्पावरमेंट इन इंडिया. What is women empowerment? Women empowerment is basically ensuring that women will participate in the decision making process. Women empowerment से पहले का step था, that is women emancipation. That there were many restrictions that were imposed on the women from the socio-cultural point of view, even from the economic point of view. Restrictions were removed. So ये women empowerment पहली concept नहीं है, पहली concept है women emancipation. But we understood that government ने कितने भी law pass कर दिए, right? और कितना भी education दे दिया, कितने भी लोगों को हम बोले कि there should be equality among the men and women, ये जितना चाहिए उतना हो नहीं रहा है. Women equality आ नहीं रही है, even after the women emancipation become a statutory term. So then the government decided, obviously sociologists suggested them कि सोसाइटी में उसी को रिस्पेक्ट मिलता है जो इकोनॉमिकली इंडिपेंडेंट है. उनको ही डिसीजन मेकिंग में आप पार्टिसिपेट करते हो जो इकोनॉमिकली इंडिपेंडेंट है. तो आप वुमन को इकोनॉमिकली इंडिपेंडेंट बनाओ, ऑटोमेटिकली क्या होगा? ऑटोमेटिकली उसका रिस्पेक्ट उसके फैमिली में, कम्युनिटी में बढ़ेगा. ऑटोमेटिकली दे विल स्टार्ट पार्टिसिपेटिंग इन द डिसीजन मेकिंग प्रोसेस, राइट? सो वुमन एम्पावरमेंट का अल्टीमेट गोल क्या है? Allowing women to participate in decision making process to ensure there should be equality among the men and women. लेकिन उसके लिए करना क्या है? उसके लिए करना है कि वुमन को पढ़ाओ. पढ़ने के बाद क्या होगा? They will get employment opportunities. Employment opportunities मिलने के बाद क्या होगा? Automatically they will be allowed to participate. So that's the point basically, right? That giving women empowerment or employment opportunities, it means ensuring her growth. What will happen because of that? Empowerment. That is concept which we can discuss under development. So this is how they are linked to each other. So let's compare in a simple tabular form. What is economic growth? Economic growth is a positive change in the real output of the country in a particular span of time. Real output, right? So output means in terms of goods or services or in terms of money. So whenever that is increased in a positive sense, obviously, so then we are calling it economic growth. What is economic development? It involves rise in the level of production in the economy, along with the advancement of technology, improvement in the living standards, and so on. Obviously, economic growth is a very narrow concept. We are talking only about the quantitative increases. Economic development is a real broad concept. Obviously, when you talk about economic growth, you talk more about GDP, per capita income, or those kind of things. But when you talk about economic development on a broader level, you're talking about the improvement in life expectancy rate, infant mortality rate, literacy rate, and poverty rates, and etc. etc. सीधी सी बात है. We are going to discuss the elimination of poverty, for example. अब देखो कि पॉवर्टी, आई कैनॉट डायरेक्टली अटैक पॉवर्टी. अगर मुझे पॉवर्टी एलिमिनेट करनी है तो क्या करना पड़ेगा? उसके लिए बहुत ब्रॉडर लेवल का थिंकिंग चाहिए. आई फर्स्ट इंश्योर I had to ensure that there should be educational opportunities, infrastructure development चाहिए, right? तो ये सब होगा तो automatically poverty चली जाएगी. Economic development, broad concept. Obviously, economic growth can be a short-term process, right? Within maybe 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, we can achieve economic growth. But economic development is a real long process, right? You have to have those vision documents. 10 years down the line क्या होगा? 2020 vision document we published in 2000 only. मतलब 20 साल में हम क्या करने वाले हैं एज अ कंट्री, दैट इज डेवलपमेंट. और ग्रोथ शॉर्ट टर्म होती है, शॉर्ट टर्म ही होनी चाहिए, बिकॉज इफ यू टेक अ लॉन्ग टर्म फॉर द ग्रोथ देन डेवलपमेंट उसके बाद आने वाली है. आई विल गिव एन एग्जांपल दैट हाउ ग्रोथ कैन बी अ शॉर्ट टर्म प्रोसेस. Just try to understand and how this will link to a broader development. I will give the example when Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the Prime Minister of India. Our country was getting into a recession at that time. Recession का मतलब है that GDP was going down. The GDP goes down. We will discuss GDP in a due course of time. But GDP going down, इसका मतलब है कि economic activity is going down. इसका मतलब है कि इंडस्ट्रीज या बाकी जो भी एम्प्लॉयमेंट अपॉर्चुनिटीज इवॉल्व करने वाले whatever the units are, they are going down. Their number is decreasing. Employment is decreasing. Employment is decreasing. Automatically, the money in the hands of the people will decrease. Obviously, they will consume less goods and less services. What will happen because of that? Because of that less consumption, again the economic activity will go down. So once we get into recession, ना बहुत problem होता है, right? Because it's a sort of vicious circle. Employment चली जाती है, आपके पास पैसा नहीं है, because of that you consume less, automatically you create more pressure on the economy. Economy और नीचे नीचे चली जाती है. तो करना क्या पड़ेगा? तो करना आपको एक immediately you have to do something by which the growth will happen. It means the GDP will increase. So Atal Bihari Vajpayee launched that famous project of Golden Quadrilateral, right? क्या हुआ? Government started a project. Government ने बहुत सारे रास्ते within a very short span of time sanction कर दिया, right? So suddenly employment opportunities were created maybe within 3, 4, 5 months, right? लोगों के हाथ पैसा आ गया. Growth started to happen. What is this? It's a short-term process. The point is that because of the Golden Quadrilateral, what will happen in the longer run? Because of that, more and more areas will be connected with each other. Because of this connectivity, you can easily understand those regions, hitherto, until that moment, they were not connected with other parts of the country, right? तो उनको क्या हुआ कि उनके जहाँ available resources जो है, mobilization of those resources started, right? So in a longer run, the quality of standard of living indicators of those areas will start evolving. This is a long-term process. So obviously in economic growth, quantitative changes are expected, and in economic development, qualitative changes are expected. But फिर से देखो मैंने ब्रैकेट में क्या लिखा है. Without the quantitative change, qualitative changes will not happen. So इसका मतलब है that when we are talking about growth, we expect only quantitative changes. But when we talk about development, our goal is qualitative change, but quantitative changes भी आपको expect करनी ही है. Now there is a huge debate about the path of development that we are supposed to take place. From the examination point of view, you have to understand that whatever I have been discussing in the last half an hour, that is growth and development, I I'm damn sure that now you must have been conceptually very clear that what is growth and what is development. Number of times, some portion of growth can be only treated as a growth. Sometimes growth can be that can result in a development and things like that. Right now, that connectivity, I'm sure you will able to explore in the due course of time. But what sort of path of development that we have to take? And there is a huge debate that is raging in the world for the last 20 years or so. From the examination point of view, I think this debate is very interesting and very important. I really don't think that UPSC is going to ask you a question directly on which model India should follow. और ऐसा होता भी नहीं कि we are going to follow only one model or only one path towards that development. But if we know that what are the different paths of development which has been used by the different countries in the world, then it will be much easier for us maybe to choose our own path. So what we'll be doing in the next half an hour, we'll be discussing the different models of development. I'm very sure that this is going to be really interesting discussion for you. There is a theory called a modernization theory. To modernize, especially in the Western sense of the term, right? In the Western sense of the term. So, and it always acted as a dominant theory of development, and it has been in the use since the late 19th and 20th century, and it has definitely made huge contribution to the definition of development. But as stated earlier, the concept of development has undergone a significant change. So what is this modernization theory? Modernization theory is a Western model of development, which is now being called everywhere. It means that if your per capita income increases, if the GDP of the country increases, if you are having more number of cars per capita population, if you are having more calories intake per capita, if you are having more number of schools per capita, more number of hospital beds per capita, right? So collectively, all these things are called as modernization, and there is in a way nothing wrong in this. Uh, in fact, democracy is also being called as one of the main component of this modernization theory. That without democracy, maybe whatever the development we are expecting, because in that development, the freedom of choice, the liberties will also be the part. ऐसा भी हो सकता है that there are countries, for example, like former USSR or present China, GDP is very high, per capita income is very high. They are having modern hospitals and education institutions, etc. But they don't have the political freedom, right? So you cannot call that as a real development, because already we have talked about the development is not only economic well-being, right? It's a social and political well-being as well. So even the political concept like democracy can also be considered as a part of this modernization theory. But this theory evolved in Western Europe. You will understand in a due course of time that majority of the things have evolved in Western Europe. Indians think कि हमारे यहाँ बहुत सारा मतलब we're having a lot of history and we have invented zero, and I totally agree with that. But maybe apart from zero, I don't know what we have invented which is really relevant in the modern times. When you talk about a concept like democracy, when you talk about the concept like industrial revolutions, the machines, the computers, the aeroplanes, and I don't know what not. Even the vaccines we are talking about, majority of the things have been invented in a Western Europe. Uh, Industrial revolution is a topic mentioned in our world history syllabus. इंडस्ट्रियल रिवॉल्यूशन का मतलब है कि इंडस्ट्रियल रिवॉल्यूशन से पहले एनिमल पावर वाज यूज्ड इन द प्रोसेस ऑफ मैन्युफैक्चरिंग. In industrial revolution, James Watt revolutionized everything by fine tuning the steam engine, and now we are using the power of steam, and the era of machine or the machine age started. And obviously the IT revolution is a consequence of that industrial revolution only. So industrial revolution for many, it is just an economic phenomenon. But you have to understand this is not only economic phenomenon. This is having a huge consequences for society or for polity at large. Before Industrial Revolution, we were living in the era of monarchies. इंडस्ट्रियल रिवॉल्यूशन के बाद मोनार्कीज खत्म हो गए, डेमोक्रेसी स्टार्ट हो गई. इंडस्ट्रियल रिवॉल्यूशन से पहले फ्यूडलिज्म, सिंपलेस्ट लैंग्वेज में उसको जमींदारी कहते हैं, राइट, वो थी यूरोप में भी, वो भी एंड हो गई. Right? Before the revolution, there was a concept of nationalism. You fought World War I and World War II. किसलिए fought किया? Because Germany wanted to conquer everything, France wanted to conquer everything, Britain wanted to conquer everything, America wanted to conquer everything, and now finally they end up with what? They end up with the European Union, right? Just to imagine, in our country there is a lot of debate, nationalism. We are 50 years back. In 2050, if in India you started talking about nationalism, then you will be treated as fools. The way Europe treat nationalism as a foolish thing, which they themselves did maybe 50 years ago, and they fought a wars on that. हमारे यहाँ तो नेशनलिज्म खाली फेसबुक पे होता है, वहाँ तो वर्ल्ड वॉर 1 वर्ल्ड वॉर 2 फाइट के करोड़ ऑफ पीपल डाइड. तो हमारे जो प्राउड नेशनलिस्ट जो है उनको यूरोप की हिस्ट्री देखनी चाहिए. इसलिए इसीलिए कि इनका नेशनलिज्म कितना खोखला है, एंड the concept itself is such a faulty concept. Why? Because after industrialization, after fighting World War I, World War II, politics में भी बहुत change हो गया. Era of globalization we are living in. Globalization is what? Globalization is nothing but, you think that it's an economic concept, but it's a cultural concept. In our country, for example, we wear jeans, right? And we are on Facebook, and we watch some sports, and we wanted to enjoy our freedom, and etc. इसे कहाँ का impact है? ये Hollywood का impact है. And Hollywood is what? Is nothing but a consequence of globalization. So basically, the point I'm trying to discuss is, right now, whatever we think is great, whatever we think is modern, is nothing but what? Is nothing but this Western notion of development. Is it wrong? Absolutely not. इसमें कुछ गलत नहीं है, but fine tuning is required. Why? Because there has been certain excesses. If that theory of modernization is right, then few things which are happening in Western Europe, or few things which are happening in America, or because of that happening in the rest of the world, तो वो होने नहीं चाहिए थे ना. So what is that we have to discuss? There are countries like, for example, Cuba and Bhutan, which has categorically chosen not to follow this Western view of development model. And this is an amazing debate now we are going to have. I assure you that this is really enchanting, and this is really enlightening discussion. Already you must have understood that how the modernization has evolved after Industrial Revolution, and whatever we think is modern is basically the legacy of Western Europe, but few countries. So that is one pole we are talking about, and on the other pole we are talking about Cuba and Bhutan, and they are deliberately not choosing this Western view of development model. तो ये मॉडर्नाइजेशन में, वेस्टर्न मॉडल में क्या आता है? कैपिटलिज्म आता है, इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन आता है, डेमोक्रेसी आती है, एंड थिंग्स लाइक दैट. इसमें क्या आता है? वी विल बी डिस्कसिंग नाउ. There is another very interesting development model which has been evolving, and very interestingly in Europe only. And I guess some of you might be knowing that there is one United Nations development indicator called as HDI, a Human Development Index, which basically measures the standard of living in every country in the world. And you'll be surprised to know always who is at the top. No France, no England, no Japan, no America. Always Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, and those countries top. These countries collectively are called as Nordic countries. Even though, now this is very interesting, even though they are the part of the Europe, they have evolved their own path of development. So we'll be discussing that as well. Let's start our discussion with Cuba. Cuba, again, some of you might be knowing that Cuba has become synonymous with a famous revolutionary. His name was Che Guevara, and more famous revolutionary than Che Guevara was obviously Fidel Castro. And they revolted against the American corporations, America, Spain, etc., all these colonial countries, and they won their independence in the last century. And communist revolution happened, and Cuba is governed even today by the Communist Party of Cuba, and is one of the few remaining Marxist and Leninist socialist states. Economy even today is largely controlled by the state, and it's a planned economy. Uh, we also used to follow uh, planning until 3 4 years ago, until the planning commission was there. Obviously, heydays of the planning were until 1990. Once we accepted the LPG model, the importance of planning in our country goes on decreasing. Today, planning commission is not there, but Niti Aayog is there. So even today in our country, planning is there. After we discussing this growth and development, उसके बाद मैं planning ही discuss करने वाला हूँ. तो आपको normal idea है that government basically creates a plan कि 2 साल में, 5 साल में, 10 साल में क्या होने वाला है. So that is the planned economy. Though is not one of the economically powerful country, right? It is not having a very high GDP. In fact, it is on the GDP basis, it is I think out of top 100 countries. But it is having very interestingly very high development indicators. और उसके जो development indicators जो है ना, in fact, many times they are even better than the developed countries. So according to Human Development Index of 2016, Cuba has the highest human development, high human development, and you know it is ranked 8th highest in North America and 68th in the world. But it ranks high in the matrices of the national performances like healthcare and education. You know, in India, the nurses and the medical staff from Kerala is very popular. Even we export them to West Asia as well. Likewise, Cuba exports its medical professionals all over the world. In fact, in the COVID pandemic, demand for Cuban doctors and nurses increased phenomenally. आप कहेंगे कि उनके कंट्री में जरूरत नहीं है, उनके में कंट्री में जरूरत नहीं है. Why? Because they are having the highest number of doctors per capita in the world. It is also having the highest, most sustainable model of development, and we have said that WWF, that is World Fund for Nature, has said that it is having the highest, that is Human Development Index, at the same time low carbon footprint. Carbon footprint is a term which we will discuss elaborately in your environment discussions. लेकिन इसका मतलब क्या है, थोड़ा सा मैं सिंपल में समझाता हूँ. Let's assume that I am traveling in a car from my office to my home, and while during this journey, let's assume hypothetically that I emit 3 kg of carbon dioxide. So what is my carbon footprint in this journey? 3 kg of carbon dioxide. So carbon footprint directly leads to what? Global warming. That directly leads to what? This greenhouse gases and global warming, etc. So when we talk about the sustainability of development, you're talking about what? You're talking about ensuring whatever the resources which are available to you, those resources will also be available to the next generation. इसका मतलब क्या है कि इसका मतलब है कि taking care of your own environment. And who is doing that? Cuba is doing that. Whether America is doing it? No. Whether India is doing it? Absolutely not. Whether China is doing it? Absolutely not. Whether Western European countries are doing it? Barring few like Germany, etc., they were also not doing it. It's only in the last decade or so the world has woke up to this reality that there is something really wrong is going to happen with us in the next 5 6 decades. Global warming is going to create havoc everywhere. So we have to fight with global warming. उसके लिए क्या चाहिए? We have to reduce the carbon footprinting. Whenever we undertake any economic activity, carbon footprint is, for example, right now we are conducting a lecture. We can say that it's an online lecture, but we are using electricity. You are also using electricity. I am using a laptop. For producing laptop, obviously the carbon must have been emitted. We are having the silicon ICs in our computers, in our mobiles. We are having those displays. In every economic activity, carbon footprint is created. So what Cuba has done? Cuba has substantially limited its carbon footprint. Cuba's literacy rate is 99.7, one of the highest globally. Why? Because there is a free and compulsory education. It's free as well as compulsory. In our country, very recently, we have made primary education compulsory, but we all know that it is still not free for me. Cuba has highest doctor to population ratio in the world and has sent thousands of doctors to more than 40 countries around the world. It also follows the urban organic farming. It has banned GM crops, that is genetically modified crops. all over the world, in majority of the countries, genetically modified crops are being used. BT cotton, some of you might be aware of that. Obviously, if you want to increase agriculture production, you have to use GM foods and GM crops. But point is, what type of ill effect it will have on environment in the longer run, even today we are not very sure. So Cuba has banned those GM crops. Now you can see the parameters in the Human Development Index report 2016. Life expectancy 80 years nearly. Infant mortality rate is around 4. Public health expenditure around 10.6% of GDP. In our country, it is hardly touching 3% of GDP. And because of that, we are seeing such a chaos in during this pandemic. Politicians will blame population. But frankly speaking, we are having this population not from yesterday, we are having this population for so many years. So obviously it's the responsibility of the government and society to prepare for that. तो उसके लिए क्या करना पड़ेगा? उसके लिए obviously आपको percentage of GDP which we use for building health infrastructure we have to increase. So it's very simple in that sense. Cuba is already doing it. Under 5 mortality rate is also very low. Expected years of schooling आप देख सकते हो. Every child which go to a school on an average 14 years of schooling होता है. 14 years मतलब what? Nearly everyone is becoming a graduate there. Everyone. In fact, Cuba is having the highest percentage graduates in the world. Adult literacy rate, it is nearly 100%. This is very interesting. Gender Development Index, it is nearly 1. It is nearly 1 means what? It means that men and women are treated equally. Look at the shares of the seats in parliament. 48.9% women in the parliament are women. Obviously, there is a lot of gender equality there. In our country, we are having Sonia Gandhi at the top. We are having Pratibha Tai Patil as our president, and we had late Sushma Swaraj as the leader of opposition, and we are extremely proud that look, these 3 important positions were held by a woman in India. But does it mean that we are having women emancipated or women empowerment in India? Obviously not. But Cuba, they don't have the president yet. Woman president nahi hai, woman prime minister nahi hai, but they're having nearly 50% as a woman parliamentary. So obviously, it will in the near future they will definitely have the head of state as women. Birth registration, 100% births are registered. Forest area, ideally forest area should be 1/3 of the total land, and they are nearly having that. We can see that Cuba, even though it is not the largest economy, even in Americas, still it is considered as the most sustainable model of development. By whom? By WWF itself. I'm not going to say whether we should follow Cuba or not, or whether Cuban model is the best model. We are going to do what? We are just going to discuss different models without creating any opinion as such. Right? Whenever the question will be asked, you will be aware of the different modes or the different paths towards development, and then we will decide maybe in that situation which model is best applicable. Cuba, the next development model we're going to discuss is a Nordic countries model. Already I have told you Nordic countries mean the Greenland, Iceland, Norway, Denmark, Sweden, Finland. Right? So these countries are called as Nordic countries. And the model they follow for their economic and social structure is called as a social democracy. Again, I want to highlight that these countries are the part of Europe, but still, rather than following the Western liberal model, there is capitalism, etc. They are following their own interesting model. So they are following market economy, right? इसका मतलब है कि market economy, capitalism, like America, like England, like France, it is there. Capitalism is there, but it is combined with what? It is combined with very, very strong labor unions. Please try to understand. Labor unions are characteristic of socialist countries, right? Like India, for example, like China, like former Russia, like Cuba. In capitalist countries, labor unions are generally frowned upon. Generally, they are not supported by the government. Generally, laws don't allow them. But Nordic countries are having very strong labor unions, and they are having a universalist welfare sector. Universalist welfare sector. इसका मतलब है that welfare state concept, which is again a concept associated more sort of socialist countries or more underdeveloped or developing countries, but they are having that concept in capitalist countries. And universalism is for everybody. Obviously, if the government has to ensure the welfare for everybody, इसका मतलब क्या होगा? इसका मतलब है कि government's expenditure on the social schemes like health, like education, like infrastructure should be there. But उसके लिए क्या चाहिए? Government को पैसा चाहिए. For example, in our country, government is a welfare state. Government initiates a lot of schemes, but whether these schemes are ultimately successful, no. There are a number of reasons why many schemes fail in our country, but one of the main reason is the amount of money which we have to invest to successfully implement those plans and projects, उतना पैसा हमारे पास नहीं है. Why? Because maybe हमारा GDP बहुत ज्यादा नहीं है, और maybe हमारे tax collection उतना ज्यादा नहीं है. What happens in these Nordic countries? In these Nordic countries, taxes are very, very heavy. Obviously, the question will arise that why rich people will pay heavy taxes? वो कहेंगे कि यार इतना टैक्स हम क्यों भरेंगे? सीधी सी बात है. Let's try to understand this. Let's imagine that you are a very rich person and you are living in say Mumbai. Maybe you are living in a very posh area, right? The taxes are not very high and you are extremely rich. But the point is that whenever you get out of your home, क्या होगा? रास्ते पे गंदगी होगी, ट्रैफिक जैम होगा, आजू बाजू स्लम्स हो गए, pollution होगा, right? Now, whether you are Mukesh Ambani or whether you are you are going to breathe the same air, you are going to use the same roads, right? Simple सी बात है. तो इसका मतलब है the standard of living will depend on what? Will not depend only on your income, will not depend only on your growth. If you want to ensure your own development, you have to take care of your surroundings. What is happening around? What are the realities around? That will ensure that whether you are going to have a high standard of living or not. And Nordic countries, rich people know this well. That if I want to really enjoy my life, if I want to sit with my counterpart, मेरा husband है, मेरा wife है, right? रात को मुझे 12 बजे जाके किसी लेक साइड पे बैठना है आराम से, just to enjoy the moonlight. Whether I can do that in India, I cannot do that in India. Why? Because there is issue of law and order. Or maybe there are no good lakes beside which I can sit. इसका मतलब है कि मेरे पास पैसा है, but I cannot enjoy that standard of living. Nordic countries, people will pay very high taxes. With these high taxes, they will ensure that there will be no poverty. They will ensure that law and order will be well. They will ensure that there will be less pollution, and etc. etc. Right? So if you want to ensure welfare state, you have to understand that the government has to play a very significant role. Government should incur very high expenditure, but for that government has to collect a lot of taxes from the people. So they are doing that, and people are not opposing. Why? Because they must have seen what is happening in the other parts of the Europe or the world, where people are not paying very high taxes. There exists, now very interesting point, there exists a high degree of income redistribution. Please try to understand. If I am a rich person and that is a poor person, government is taxing me, I am paying taxes, right? With that tax, what the government is going to do? Government is going to give that person education. So what is this? There is an income redistribution. The money from the rich person is being taken and that money is being given to the lower income person. One of the main reasons that why government collect taxes from us, because they wanted to redistribute the income. That's very important. If that don't happen, then what will happen? Social unrest will happen. What is happening in our country? Why farmers are agitated? The reason is they can see, right? They can see that in India, so many people are living in such a fantastic standard of living, right? They are having the flats of crores of rupees and they're enjoying cars, etc. And what they are doing, they are toiling hard in in the sun for 12 hours a day and they are not getting enough money. So in our country, there is a lot of income inequality. We are going to discuss what is poverty in India. We are going to discuss what is unemployment in India. We are also going to discuss what is planning. We are also going to discuss. We are also going to discuss that how taxation is evolved in India, right? So when you understand all these things, तो आपको पता चलेगा income redistribution has to be there. अगर वो नहीं होता है तो social unrest बढ़ती जाएगी. This includes the support for the said universalist welfare state aimed specifically at enhancing individual autonomy and promoting social mobility. सीधी सी बात है ना, in our country everybody has to think about a per capita income, so everybody has to work in a very defined manner, right? Maybe in Nordic countries ऐसा नहीं होता है. If you are having different passions, if you are having different talents, then you can explore that. Somehow, if you are not able to generate a lot of money from that, still government will support you through the universalist welfare state. Nordic countries, they are so small, right? And what they do, they win a lot of medals in the Olympics. अभी आपको लगता है that every sports person is going to become Usain Bolt or Sachin Tendulkar and they are going to earn crores of rupees? Absolutely not, right? But if you are having, 10,000 or maybe 10 lakh people dreaming of becoming Sachin Tendulkar, only one Sachin Tendulkar will be there. But at least in our country, there is a lot of money in cricket, and that's why many people dreamt of that. But how many of us will be dreaming of becoming Usain Bolt? No one. Why? क्योंकि सबको मालूम है कि हमको Usain Bolt बनने के लिए हमारे पास इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर ही नहीं है. Even when you talk about sports, this is what? This is in a way autonomy. This will what? This will promote social mobility. When we think of taking an institute, हम क्या देखते हैं? Teachers कैसे? हम क्या देखते हैं? मतलब labs कैसे हैं? We never think ground कैसा है? कितना बड़ा ground है? Social mobility, social individual autonomy will depend on these kind of things. There exist okay. There exists a corporatist system with a tripartite arrangement where representative of labor and employers negotiate wages and labor market policies are mediated by the government. Can you imagine that this kind of thing can happen? This is happening. This is happening in Nordic countries for last so many decades. मतलब there is मालिक बैठा है, right? Labor बैठा है. They are supposed to negotiate very openly, very transparently. हमारे country में ऐसा होता नहीं है. वहाँ होता है. ये अमेरिका में भी नहीं होता है. In America, capitalists will exploit the labor community, right? In our country, the same thing will happen. Even though we are supposed to be socialist countries, same thing happened in China as well. It's supposed to be a communist country, right? So whether it is capitalism or whether it is nowadays communism, same thing happens. The owner exploits the labor, but in Nordic countries this will not happen. Why? Because government will mediate. The maintains higher commitment to widespread private ownership, free markets and free trade. Now this is also very interesting. If you start imposing more restrictions of the people, आप क्या करते हो कि आप उनका entrepreneurship उनकी आप suppress करते हो, उनकी creativity आप suppress करते हो, right? उनकी जो ability जो होती है to take the initiatives, take the risks वो आप suppress करते हो. That country will not ensure a lot of growth. So this is a very fine balance. On one hand, you have to ensure that private people will grow, right? They will remain independent. आप government को encourage नहीं करेगा, लेकिन आपको ये भी ensure करना है these people will not exploit the poor people. So this balance has to be maintained. So on one hand, there is a lot of private ownership, free markets, and free trade. They're the hallmarks of capitalist economy. But on the other hand, there are labor unions and there is a mediation by the government, which is mark of socialist models. Both are gelled together in this social democracy of the Nordic countries. In the context of the Nordic model, social democracy refers to a set of policies for promoting economic security and opportunity within the framework of capitalism rather than a system to replace capitalism. In your module of political philosophies, you will be discussing what is capitalism, what is socialism, etc. But briefly, I guess everybody is having the basic idea about it, that capitalism means you allow the private people टू प्रॉस्पर, राइट? जिसके पास एबिलिटी है, जिसके पास रिसोर्सेस है, जिसके पास रिस्क टेकिंग एबिलिटी है, वो आगे जाएगा, ठीक है? सो दैट इज द फ्रेमवर्क ऑफ कैपिटलिज्म। लेकिन उसका प्रॉब्लम क्या होता है? प्रॉब्लम होता है कि दे बिकम वेरी पावरफुल एंड इकोनॉमिक सिक्योरिटी, अपॉर्चुनिटी विल बी रिजेक्टेड ड्यू टू लोअर स्ट्रैटा ऑफ द सोसाइटी। तो वो भी आपको नहीं करना है, उसका फ्यूजन आपको चाहिए। Just take this amazing examples. Denmark has a high degree of private sector provisions of public service and welfare alongside an assimilation immigration policy, right? So इमिग्रेंट्स को अलाउ करते हैं हमारे कंट्री में, आ जाओ, हम नहीं करते। Iceland's welfare model is based on the welfare to work model. Means you have to work, but for what? Not to ensure growth, but to ensure the welfare of individual as well as the society. Finland's welfare system state includes a voluntary sector playing a significant role in providing care for the elderly people. In majority of these capitalist developed countries, including Finland, right, they are having a big issue of a large population of elderly people. They are having very high mortality rates now, nearly touching 80, 90, right? And because of that, lot of elderly people are there. So who is going to take care of them? You know who takes care of them? People takes care of them. Community take care of them. Means every young person, teen, when they are in teenage, उनको ड्यूटी दी जाती है and they do it voluntarily, that they go to the nearest elderly house and they should spend some time with those elderly people. They should entertain them. वो क्यों करते हैं? क्योंकि उनको मालूम है कि कभी वो भी बूढ़े हो जाएंगे and then somebody has to treat them, right? So this type of value system is there in these Nordic countries. Norway rallies most extensively on public provisions of welfare. Public provisions means government. Government provide करता है for the welfare of the people. What are the common characteristics compared to other countries? There is a very high level of public spending. That is government spending on everything, on schooling, on hospitals, on infrastructure, and like that.